table structure in place for which to build our entities on. And you can do that all within the application architect. However, I usually find that it's easier and there are less issues if you create the tables in the SalesLogix administrator first and then create the entities after the fact. If you're used to or have done any sort of land development in SalesLogix, and this should all be fairly familiar. So at this point, I have the SalesLogix administrator open, and I am just going to. I also have the database manager open, which is this button here, and I'm going to go ahead and create a new table. And this table I'm going to call FX Project. The association for this one will be none because it's going to be its own top-level entity. And I'm going to go ahead and hit OK on here. And then I'm going to go ahead and add some fields into here as well that we will be using in the interface that we build. So I'm going to add a project name, which is just going to be a string. A description as a memo field. We're going to add a project manager. Whoops. If I can spell today. The field type for this, since this is going to be a link to a user, any link that you would do to another table in SalesLogix, we're going to do in as a SLX standard ID is the field type. In addition, we're going to add a project type. Now, for this one, the word type appears to be a protected keyword in SalesLogix, so the field name itself can't be type. So I call it project type, and I just use type as a display name. But none of the other fields that we're creating in here have that same restriction, so I won't prefix everything with project necessarily. And so we'll add a status, due date, as a date time field. And then finally, we're going to want to be able to link these to other accounts and contacts. So I'm going to add fields for an account ID, again as a SalesLogix standard ID, and also a contact ID. Now that this table is created, I'm going to go ahead and click the Apply Changes button to create this in the database. We're going to create another table as well, and you could actually create multiple. You wouldn't have to commit after each table. However, the second table that we're going to build is going to be based off of the first table, so we need to commit it so that it is available for us to build the secondary table off of. So under FX Project, now I have that highlighted here, I'm going to go ahead and add another table, and this one I'm going to call Project Task. And the difference here is the association, as you can see here, is FX Project, and the type is going to be a one-to-many table relationship, essentially meaning you can have multiple tasks at the project that you create. So we'll go ahead and create the table, and then also I'm going to add some fields to this one as well. So I'm just going to do a task name. And then we'll do a description again. We'll again have this be a memo field. And start date as a date time, and end date also as a date time. A status field, which we'll leave as a string, and then finally I'm going to add a assigned user ID. And again, that'll be a SLX standard ID as the data type. So now that that is created, make sure I spelled things right there. Go ahead and hit Apply Changes on this again to create that table as well. Now, a couple of these fields I want to add as pick lists. So since we're already in here, I'm going to go ahead and create those pick lists now. So I'm going to go to the Manage menu here in the Administrator and go to Manage and Pick Lists. And I'll just create a few here. We'll do a FX project type, and I'll just give that a value of whatever. I'll do standard, and we'll leave that as that. And then we'll add another one called project status. And this one I'll add, we'll just do open and closed. And then finally I'm going to add one for a task status. And then this one I'll add some values such as assigned, and I will add in progress, and one called completed. So go ahead and hit OK on that. That's all we actually need to do here in the SalesLogix administrator. So I'll go ahead and close the Picklist Manager. And actually, I can go ahead and close the SalesLogix administrator as well, because we don't need to be in there anymore. Okay, so now we're looking at the SalesLogix application architect, which is where we'll actually build things for the web client. The first step we need to do is take the tables that we just created and create those as entities in the system. The easiest way to do that here is to go to the entity model and packages and the particular package that we want to include these into, which in this case would be the SalesLogix application entities, which is where you tend to find most of your entities that you deal with on a regular basis: account, contact, opportunity, and so on. So I'm going to go ahead and right-click on this and go to New Entity. And this opens the New Entity wizard. And since we already have the tables, I can go ahead and just use this first option, create a business entity from an existing table. So I'll hit next on here. And this will present me with a list of all table names in the database that aren't currently being used as entities. So now we should have a FX project, and if I scroll down, project task. The reason why I called it FX project instead of just project, there already is a project table in the SalesLogix database. I'm not actually even sure what that's used for, but just to avoid conflicting with that, I prefixed it with FX. So now that I've selected both project task and FX project, I'll just go ahead and hit next, and it'll just show a little confirmation here saying that it's going to create entities for those two tables. So I'll hit next, and we'll go ahead and save the entity for both of those in turn. Okay, so it looks like those have successfully created. So now I can go ahead and click Finish to close this screen. Okay, now there's a couple things we'll also want to build with these entities, and now we'll see that in the list of all the other entities, we see FX project. Now that we have this here, we're going to add a few relationships to go to the account and contact, and also to the user that we set up for that project. Basically, I just right-clicked on child properties and said New Relationship, and that opens the New Relationship wizard. So the first one I'm going to do, since it's already on account, I'll make my relationship to account. So I really just need to select from my parent entity the account ID, and then the account ID from the account table. I'm going to actually make this a many-to-one relationship in the cardinality, meaning that multiple, one account could have multiple projects involved with it. So now that I've set that, I'll go ahead and hit OK, and this is going to open a little screen which basically describes the relationship that we're about to create. The top area here is in reference to the project entity. So within project there will be a property called account, which represents the relationship to the account entity. I'm not going to check this box down here because I don't necessarily want to add a FX project property in the account entity. So I'll just leave this alone. You can kind of see down here that it describes basically what we're creating. So go ahead and save that. And in addition, I'm going to do this again, actually a couple more times. So I'll do a new relationship, and now I'll do this one to contact. So we'll go from contact ID to contact ID, and again, we want this to be a many-to-one. And go ahead and hit OK on there. And again, this opens this screen defining the relationship that we just created. So we'll go ahead and save this one as well. Now, in addition, we're going to want to. There's two more we need to create in here. The first one we'll just do to user, and this is to define. This is to define the project manager that I had set in there. And once again, we'll do a many-to-one. And we want to make sure to select user ID on the user entity. And we already have project managers, so we're set there. So go ahead and hit OK. And now the only difference I'm going to do on this one is I'm going to go ahead and change this property to project manager, just so it makes a little more sense as a property within that project entity. So we'll go ahead and save that one. Now the last relationship we're going to create, this is the only one that's really different than the first three we've created. Since we created that project task entity, we want to have a relationship to there as well, so that we can create a tab underneath our project view that we'll build, and be able to have the relationship of many tasks under the single project. So under the child entity, I'm going to find project task. Whoops. So go ahead and select that, and we have a FX project ID in here, and we have a FX project ID here as well. In this case, I'm going to leave the cardinality as one-to-many, and when I go to the descriptive screen here, you'll see that it actually has checked this bottom one, which I do want in this case, so that basically at the project level there'll be a property for tasks, and then at the task level there'll be a property for projects, so we can reference in either direction. That's going to be more important if you're writing code for things, which we're not actually going to do here, but in the case of a one-to-many, generally we'll keep those on both sides of the relationship. So go ahead and save this one as well. Finally, as far as relationships go, I'm going to go to the project task entity that we created, and I'm going to do something. I'm going to do a similar thing here, where I'm just going to create a relationship to user, and this is for the assigned user that I had set up in that table. So we'll set this up the same way again, many-to-one, and user ID to the assigned user ID. And click OK on here. And again on this one, just to make this make a little more sense as far as property names go, I'm going to go ahead and call this assigned user. Okay, and that should be good. So I will go ahead and save those, and we can actually kind of get these out of the way now by closing them. Okay, so now basically what we've done is we've created our tables in the database, we've created entities out of those tables, and we've defined the relationships that we're going to be using between those tables and other tables. Now that we've done this, one step you need to do when adding new items to entities is before you can use those in a view of any kind, you need to click this button here, which builds the interfaces that will allow the entities and the properties of those entities to be available to be used on Quick Forms in the Application Architect. So this will take just a minute or so to, hopefully a little less than that, to run. And you can see in the output window here on the bottom, it gives you some status as to what's going on. And this should be pretty close here. Okay, that is finished up here. The last message it gave me is build complete, so I know that all worked all right so far. So now there's a number of individual quick forms that we're going to want to build. First of all, under the FX project entity, where we're going to build most of these items, I'm going to go ahead on. Oops. Actually, there are. Now that we have the entities in here, there's a couple things I want to set in here as well. So just to backtrack a little bit, I double-clicked on the FX project entity that we created, and that'll open this up on the side here. And so now there's a couple items I want to set. The display name is already set, and this is the same. The name and the display name is the same as the table name as I created it. I want to add a plural display name in there as well, so I'll just call one, put one in there called FX Projects. And in addition to that, I'm going to set a couple other things. I want to use an image in here, and those will be used. Well, if you look on the left-hand side, for example, lead here that we can see, it has a different icon in there. If you scrolled up and looked at account and whatnot, those would have specialized icons in there. So just to differentiate project from other entities in there, I'm going to use an icon. I don't have one specifically for projects, but I've been using the campaigns one for now. So I will go ahead and add the campaign 16 by 16 icon into the small image by selecting this and hitting select. And then under the large image, I'll just click this and add in the larger version of that icon for that image. Oops, I think I missed it. Okay, the campaign is 24 by 24, so I'll select that in there. So now those are defined in the small and the large image. In addition, under the SalesLogix Extended tab, there's a string expression, and what this will be set up as, I want to use I believe I call the project name. Let me double check. Okay, so what the string expression here does is when you look at account, for example, in the web client, and you see on the top left-hand screen, it will say the account name up on top of the. Well, matter of fact, let me just show you here. Okay, so here we're in the web client. If we look at account under sales and account, it shows an account name up here in the left-hand side, which we'll see here in just a second. No, thank you. Okay, that out, and I'll go to a specific account here. This account dash Abbott Limited up on the top, that is what is being set by the that string expression in the application architect. So let's go back to that here. So in this case, I want to show a project name in there, and this this syntax is not too bad. It's basically just a $sign in curly brackets, and then the property name that you want to show in there. In this case, I'm going to use the project name, and it looks like I made a little mistake there, and I left the A capitalized, so I'll need to do that in here as well. And that's really all we need to do in this entity. So we've set the images and just a plural display name, and then the string expression in the extended tab here. So I'm going to go ahead and save that. In addition to the project area that I just modified, I want to go to project tasks and look at this one as well. Since this isn't going to be a main form, I don't need to worry about the extended setting, the string expression. I also don't need to worry about images on there, but I do want to throw in just a plural display name. So we'll go ahead and save that. Okay, now that we're pretty much done playing around with our entities, I'm going to go ahead and create some forms. So now under FX Project, we're going to create the main form that we'll be looking at, the main detail form. So we're going to go ahead and right-click on Forms and go to the New Form Wizard, and that opens this up. And I'm going to be creating a detail form, and I'm just going to call that FX Project Detail, same as I will call the portal page later. So FX Project Detail, and I'll go ahead and click Next. And now I'm going to want to add fields that we're going to show on here. So basically all the fields that I had created for that table. So I'm going to add account contact, and these are actually the relationships to these tables. We'll modify these once we have the view built. So I'm essentially just picking these as placeholders right now. So I'm going to add my due date in there, the project manager, project name, project tasks. I thought I had a description. Yep, description there, status and type. So go ahead and click Next. And this will give you a little form wizard, which just defines how many columns are going to be used to build this. You can't really, you don't control at this point where what goes, but it just shows how many columns you're going to have defined. So we'll go ahead and click Next on that, and then finally Finish. And that will go ahead and create our basic view. So now we have our view, or our quick form, I should say, and we probably want to do some manipulation of this and move things around a little bit. So I'm going to add a row, just so I have some room to move things around. Actually, I don't need project tasks in here. So I'm just going to throw the project name up here in the upper left. Throw the description underneath it, project manager, and then we'll do account contact, and status and type on this end here. And in addition, since this description is a memo field, I want to give it a little more room to be able to throw text in. So I'm going to go ahead and change the row span on this to 2. So now this spans 2 rows. In addition, I'm going to change the lines property to 2 as well. So now that stretches out description. I'm going to move the due date over here and the project manager over here, and actually I think I'll make this one bigger even. So I'll do 3 instead. So now we basically have our view. There's a couple other things we want to add on here. I'm just going to save it quick while we have it. This is our main detail view, and if you look at account again, for example, they have a couple other items in here. They have this this sort of VCR control for scrolling through records, and like a list view, and actually I believe that's part of the scrolling through records control. Then a delete, or a save and a delete. We're going to add some of the, not necessarily everything in here, but we're going to add a few of those buttons on this form as well. So let me go back there. Okay, so now that we're on the form, on the properties here on the right-hand side, there's a toolbar property. I'm going to go ahead and expand this out. And on the right area, I'm going to add a button. And this button is going to be an icon. And we'll just call this save. And for an image, we're just going to throw in the save icon. Go ahead and select that. And then to make this work, we'll want to go to the on-click action, and we're just going to add a business rule. And it's already filled in the entity type and all the detailed information there. So we just need to pick the business rule to save on this side. So now when that's pressed, it'll save any data that's in that record. Okay, so now we've added that, we also want to add one other thing. We're going to add a, I believe that is called a group viewer, or a, sorry, I have to find it here. Group navigator. So go ahead and add that in. I'm just going to move that up one. And that's that VCR control to go back and forth through other records. And there's nothing to set in this. So we'll just add that in, and that is all we need to do. So now we have those buttons, those two buttons added to the toolbar. We should probably add, in addition, we'll add a delete button as well. And this will be similar to the save button, where I add a button. I'll make this an icon button. The icon won't actually, or I'm sorry, the caption that I'm typing in won't actually show up, but just so you know what it does, it's nice to have that in there. So go ahead and add that in, and for the image, we'll go ahead and choose the, let's see here, the delete icon. And the same for this one is similar to what we did for the save. We're going to go ahead and do a business rule and make that a delete business rule. And nothing else is set in here. However, I'm going to throw in a confirmation message saying, just asking if they want to really do that. And that should be all we need to set on there. Okay, so now we have our detail view. In addition, I'm going to create an insert view. Now you can actually use the detail view as both the detail and the insert view, but it's I find it a little bit easier to use separate views. If your insert view can be less complicated than your detail view, if you don't need to include all the fields necessarily, then it can be a little bit easier to do it this way. So again, we'll do a create detail form, and I'll just call this AddEdit Ethics Project, and hit next on there. And in this case, I'm only going to add in a few of the fields. I'll do account and contact again, and I'll skip the description for now, and throw in the due date and the type status and project name. I'm going to make this 2 columns instead of 3. So go ahead and again and hit next and finish like we did on the other form. And again, I'm going to add a row just so I have some room to move things around. Get the project name up here. Account contact, type status, and then a due date. And I can go ahead and delete this row now. Okay, so now that we have those in, since this is an insert view, we're going to need a couple items on here as well, which will be slightly different. On the toolbar again, we're going to go here and add a button again. And again, this will be an icon with a caption, again, which won't display, but throw it in here anyway of save. And our image, we'll go ahead and set that again to the save icon. And this one will be slightly different. We are going to do a business rule again and do the save business rule. But in this case, on the on-complete action item, we're going to do a redirect. And that redirect, let's see here, we want to change this. The main view entity name, we're going to be going to the FX project entity that we created, so I'll add that in there. And let's see here. I think that's about all I need to do here. Okay. So go ahead and hit OK on there, and OK on that, and that is all we need to add as far as buttons on there. And what I forgot to do on the project detail form is there's a few items we'll want to change on here. Since contact, account, project manager are all lookups, and also type status, we want those to be pick lists, we'll have to modify these. Actually, I think account should be on top here. Okay, so now for, and again, we're on the project detail screen, back to that one. For account, I'm going to go ahead and right-click this and go to control type and change this to a lookup. That's fine. And I'll just kind of do these all at once here. So I'll do the contact, I'll also make that a lookup. Project manager, I'm going to change that to a user control. And then finally type, I'm going to change that to a pick list, as well as status, I'm going to change to a pick list. Now that those are set, we want to set the properties on those. Easiest way to do this, if you right-click and you go down to Show Wizard, I'll show you a few different items here. Basically walks you through it. What information will you be looking up? In this case, we'll be looking up account information. And which property received the result of this lookup? It's going to be the account property. And then you'll want to define the lookup itself, what actually shows up in there. So I'm going to set that as a dialog, and we're going to add in just the account name, and probably the maybe the industry. So this is the actual the lookup that you see when you click the lookup button. It'll show you a list of account names and industries, and that's really all we need to set on here. So go ahead and hit OK on there. Now on contact, we'll do the same thing. Just go to Show Wizard, and except in this case we're returning contact information, and this will be the contact property. And again, we'll want to set a dialog and add some fields into here. In this case, we'll do we'll do the department, first name, and last name, and maybe title. So go ahead and add that in there. Oh, you know, I'm going to add one other thing. I'm going to add, oh no, actually that's good for now. So we have those 4 items in there. Let me move these around a little bit. And I'll go ahead and hit OK on there. For the project manager, this one doesn't have a wizard since it's just it's a user lookup. So what I'm going to do is change the, actually, you know what, I don't think I really need to change anything. Nope, this one is all set and ready to go. Oh, one other thing on the account, and contact. We're going to want to change. Oh no, it already did that for me too as well. What I was looking for here is the lookup binding mode. If these weren't set up through a relationship, then the binding mode would be string. But since it is through a relationship, it's actually an object. But it looks like it already set that for me, so I don't need to worry about it. And then also for type and status, I just want to set the pick list name while I am here. So we'll do project type. Whoops. And we'll do project status. Okay. Okay, so that's now the detail form is now complete. There's nothing else we need to do on this one, and we'll want to do similar things here in the insert view. I'm going to change this again to a pick list, as will I do for status. And again, these will become lookups. Oops. And I guess that's all I included in this one. So I'm going to go to the wizard here again and do account and account. And a dialog of the account name, and I think I did industry before. So I'll add that in there, and that is all I need to do there. And then for contact, again, I'll do the same thing of contact and contact. A dialog. And let's see, we had department, first name, last name, and title. Okay, so that's the insert view that we have finished. In addition, we're going to want to create a tab with a grid on it so we can show task information. So in the same area, I'm going to go ahead and right-click on Forms and go to Add New Form Wizard. And in this case, I'm going to create a form with a grid. And this one we're going to call FX Project Tasks. And it's going to ask me what method and property I want to use. I really only have one option here, which is the project task entity that I had created the relationship for. So it's going to fill these in for me. If you had other relationships, you could set that up for the method and property, and it would pull the entity in that you needed for it. But it's already taken care of that for me. So I'll go ahead and hit next, and we'll select the fields that we want to add to our grid. So we're going to do the task name and status, start date, end date. Oh, and the assigned user, in this case, I'm going to go ahead and drill down through the relationship and just grab the username. So it shows here that I'm adding the assigned user username, the end date, start date, status, and task name. So I'll hit finish on here, and this will create a quick form that contains two things. It creates this bottom portion, this DS project task. That's the data set of the entity that's pulling the data into, and the top part here is the actual definition for the grid, which uses that data set. The data set should be all set. We don't need to do anything in there, but in the grid we'll want to make a couple changes. I'm going to go ahead and highlight that and then go to the collection property, and we'll open that up, and I'm actually going to move a few things around so they make a little more sense logically. Status, that looks good. I don't really need to do anything to these, but I'm going to add two additional columns. I'm going to add an edit column, and I'm going to also add a delete column. Now what these will be for is when you have a row in that grid, if you want to change the data from that, you'll have to click the edit column, which will go to the edit view that we haven't actually created yet. The delete will be used to delete individual rows from that grid. Since I can't really do much with these until I create the AddEdit view, I'm going to just add these and leave it at that for right now, but we'll come back to these. So go ahead and save that. In addition, well, actually, I should create the other one first. So now I want to create the AddEdit view for this. So I'm going to go down to Project Tasks, or Project Task, and same thing, just on Forms, right-click, and New Form Wizard. And this will be a detail form in this case. I'll just call it Project Task Detail. And next on there, and we'll want to add in all our fields. Start date, end date, assigned user, and description. So I'll leave this at 3 columns. And in the interest of time, I'm not going to move all these around because I think we're running a little short. But I do want to change these items to the appropriate lookup, or to the appropriate controls. So assigned user again will be a user control, and status, we'll make that a pick list. And I believe the date field should already be date field. Yep, that's already set. So for this pick list, I just changed. Go ahead and pick the right pick list for this. That's with an FX. Project task status. Okay, so that one. And then for the user, go ahead and, whoops. Oh, that's right. This is a user control. We don't actually need to really do anything to this one, since it's already set to the correct property. So that is the edit view for the grid itself. So now that I've created that, I can go into the FX project tasks grid here and go to these columns that I had created, and I'll go to edit, and let's see, in the dialog specs, that'll be a dialog action. And it already knows that it's coming from the project task entity, so then it should just be a matter of selecting the project task detail, which is the form we just created. So now it'll know when you click the edit link for whichever row, it'll open that detail form. And for I'm going to add a title override of edit task. So go ahead and hit OK on there. Actually, delete, I believe you don't need to really do anything with. Oh, let's see. Oh. Yeah, that's already, delete is already set to delete that record. There's nothing additionally you need to do to that. The one thing we are missing is how to add a record to this, and we're going to do that through a button, and we're going to add just a toolbar button here on the right-hand side. And click Add and Button, and similar to what we did before, I'm going to add this as an icon. A caption here, and under the image, I believe there's one called plus. So for the on-click action, in this case, we're going to do a, let's see, we're going to do an insert child dialog action. So we'll select that, and we'll have to fill in this information in this case. We're basically going to select the record set, or the data set that we're using. So now that we select that, it knows the entity and the parent relationship property that we're using. So we should just be able to select the smart part that we want to use, which again is that project task detail. And I'm going to throw a title override here of add task. Okay, so now basically we have our project detail screen. We have an insert screen, which I don't seem to have open anymore, and then in addition we have the grid for tasks, as well as the AddEdit or detail view for those tasks. Now that all of those components are created, we need to put those together into a page that will be displayed in SalesLogix. So in order to do that, we want to get out of the entity model, which we've been in so far, and go down to the portal manager. And within the portal manager, I'm going to go ahead and expand out Sage SalesLogix, which is the web portal, and go into there, and under Pages, I'll expand this out. And basically under here, we're going to want to create a new page. Basically all these that you see here are just representations of the entire page that you would see, whether it be the detail and the tabs and any edit views, whatever that relate to that page, are all contained within each of these. So I'm going to create a new entity page, and that will launch another wizard here for me in a second. That didn't exactly do what I wanted it to. Hold on, let me try that one more time. Oh, I'm sorry. I want to do the new page wizard, just because this fills in some stuff for you. We'll make sure that the page type in here is entity page. I'll hit next, and then we're just going to select the page that we're looking to add here. So that would be the FX project entity. So go ahead and select that and click next. FX project. Okay, so now it's added some of this for you. The page alias is FX project, which we're going to leave, and we're actually going to change the title and the description to be the same thing, which it actually did for me. But I had to click in there and it erased it, but we'll throw it back in. And then I'm going to set the images again to what we had done before, which was the, let's see here, the campaign 16 by 16 for the small, and for the large image 24 by 24. And that's all we need to do on there. So I'll hit next, and it will sort of preview the page here. So this is basically this top area is the main content, and the bottom area is the tab control, but it doesn't know what to show in those yet. So on the project area here on the left-hand side, if I scroll down to FX project and open this up, there's going to be a few different items here, and we're going to add in, well, we're going to take the project detail and drag that up to main content, and we're going to take the project task and drag that down to tab control. And then I'll go ahead and click next and finish. And that creates our basic page here. In addition, I want to add, let's see, tasks. I want to add the AddEdit project, basically the insert view for the project here as well. Let's see, so if you look at some of the properties on the right-hand side here, you'll see that on the detail we have the main contact as a target workspace and the details show in mode. I'm going to leave those alone, but for the AddEdit FX project I added, I'm going to change this defaults to tab control. I'm going to also make this main contact, but in this case I'm going to make the show in mode insert, because we'll be using that as an insert screen. And that is what I need to do there. So now we basically have created our page, our project page, and there's just a couple other things we'll need to add as well. For navigation, if we go into, I've just collapsed pages, and now if I go into, you could really go into any of these because they're all related, but I'll go into navigation. Otherwise, you could go into either menus or context menus because we have to create all of those. Under navigation, I'm just going to go ahead and probably throw this in service. I'm going to double click on service. And that's going to open this here, and right now we're on the navigation tab, navigation bar. And if I expand out service, you'll see all the items. These are the nav bar items. So anything you see under the service group will show up in here. So I'm going to go ahead and right-click on this and add a new navigation item. I'll just call this NavFX project. And set our icon again. And a lot of times when I'm doing stuff in here, I'll go back and look at other items that are in here just to make sure I'm setting everything correctly. In this case, for the nav URL, we're going to be using the project ASPX, which is this thing that we just created. So when you click this navbar button, it knows to display that page. And the context menu we don't have built yet. So now that I've created the navbar item, I'm going to also go ahead to the toolbar menus, and in this case, just to be able to add a new one. Under New, I'll right-click and go to Add New Menu Item. And I'm going to set the title of this to our FX project. And I don't really need to worry about the buttons on this one. Now, for the nav URL on this one, I am going to reference again that page that we created. However, there's some additional items we have to throw on there. If I look at another one like account, for example, you'll see it adds this part down here called mode ID equals insert. So we basically want to include that in there too. So I'm going to copy this out and just throw that at the end of the page that I created. The mode ID equals insert. That insert is basically when we set this for the show on mode of insert, that's how it knows which one to display. So it's important that we had set the show on mode that way. If you were using a single form for both detail and insert, then you could actually turn them both on, and it would use the same form, just depending on what you passed in this mode ID. So go ahead and save this. In addition, we want to add a contextual menu. So when you right-click on the navbar item, there's a few items that they commonly throw in there. So I'm going to go ahead and right-click in here and add a new menu item. Give that a name. Now there's a couple different things they'll do in here, and I'll just show account again as an example. They usually have a lookup, a new, and then a create new group. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to right-click and do a new menu item. Oops. And looking at this as an example, I'm just going to copy this whole thing and change it to what I need it to be. What this basically does is it runs a bit of JavaScript to show the lookup for this particular area that we're looking at. So in here you can see this is a table name, so this would be the FX project table that we created. And then this will be the ASPX page, which is the FX project page that we created. And that is it. Okay, so we're going to also add to add a new item here. And again, on this one, we're going to select the form or the page we created, but in this case, we're going to do that mode ID thing again. Mode ID equals insert. And then finally, I'll add one to create a new group. Oops. And again, I'm going to look at account to grab this. So I'll take that out, and basically the only thing we have to change in here is this references a table in the database. So just change that to FX project. So that's our context menu. Now that that's created, we can go back to our navigation bar, and under context menu here, go ahead and select the one that we just created. Which is there on the bottom. So that's all the navigation items that we have to set up. One other thing we need to add in here in the page, the FX project page, is under modules. I'm going to go ahead and click Add on here. I think it has to do a little bit of a background build, so it might take a second. But in order for groups to work, we have to add a reference to the group builder module in here as well. So go ahead and do that. And really, that's the last step that we need to perform. I know we're pretty much at the end here. So when we complete that step, oh, and here we go. Let's see, that is under group builder modules, and I'll extend this out, and then is that the right one? Group viewer module. So we've added that in, and then we should be good to go on our page. So go ahead and hit Save All to Everything. So now that all those are created, we had created our forms, which closing out now. But basically, then we took those forms and we displayed them in the project page under the Smart Parts. There's one other item I need to add. Which is actually the project task, and that's the AddEdit View for that detail, or for the grid. And there's actually nothing we need to really set in here, I don't think. Okay, so basically, once everything's in here, you'll do two things. You'll do a build web platform. I'm not going to do this in here because it takes a little while to do both of these. But after that platform builds, then you basically go into the Deployment Explorer and go to the core portals and our client, and then you hit the deploy button as well to deploy those changes to your website. I have actually done most of this in another system already. So let me just going to show you what we have here. So now under SalesLogix, if I have this package area here along with the navbar items, so I can create a new package. Which will allow me to, I'm sorry, packages isn't what we're looking for. Projects. So I can right-click and go to a new FX project, which gives us the form that we created. And I can, let's call this whatever, with our pick list in place. Select an account, select a contact, select a project manager, throw a due date in there, and then once I save this, this is the insert screen. Oh, something broke. I had, like I said, I had built this previously, and then, oh, I know, yeah. When I originally did this, I called the project task table FX project task instead of project task. So now the table that it's looking for is missing. So it's actually not going to quite work. Just in this example, but basically, as far as all the steps. And this, I realize, is kind of rapid fire, trying to get all this in within an hour. But that's everything you need to do to create an entity page, along with detail and some tabs underneath it. So with that, I'm going to stop the webinar here. I am going to post both the basically just a step-by-step of how to do this stuff. In addition, I'm going to throw up a bundle of the changes that we just made for you to either play with or use as a basis for one of your own systems, or just something that you can play with and kind of go through the steps and see what was done there. What I will do is there's a few things I'm going to need to clean up, so I'll put that all together within by probably tomorrow morning sometime, and then I'll have Brianna go ahead and just send a notification of the link that you can go to download those items. And that is about it. I don't believe I had any questions come through. I didn't see anything anyway. And if there aren't any questions, then I will go ahead and be finished.
All right. Thanks, Jason.
Okay.